looking to speak with Miss Antar.
Who's this?
This is Detective Bailey returning a phone call.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm okay. I just didn't know. Did Officer Fernandez speak to you at all or no?
He didn't have a chance to, but he just mentioned that he had passed my information along to you, so I'm not really sure what it's in regards to.
Okay. So I was just like speaking to him about like something where, my ex is basically like continuously like harassing me and isolating me from my 4-year-old daughter who he received custody of in the end of May. And basically like the only reason why the judge gave him custody was because she said that she accused me of lying about my daughter being sexually abused, which I reported to DCF in October of 2022. Again, like I've been like trying to like speak to a lot of people and like been trying to like get as much help and support as I can, and spoke to so many different lawyers, and I've been given like a lot of people recommended to me like you need to continue to go to the police and make reports, and you need to get this actually investigated because long story short, my daughter, like in last summer, she started doing this kind of behavior where she was basically like humping her stuffed animals. And when I asked her, "What are you doing?" she said, "Well, my stuffed animal's tickling me." And this was like last summer. And I said, "Well, like 2022." So I said, "Well, has anyone else ever tickled you like that?" Because she was only 3. She had just turned 3. So her language wasn't that good. And she says, "Yeah, she says, yes." I said, "Who?" And she said, Sal and Dom. And those are the names of her brothers, who are the half brothers of her father with his ex-wife. So like he used to have her every weekend. He would, during his weekend visits, a lot of times leave her alone with them, even though I said I didn't want him doing that. I said, like, give me right of first refusal. That was in our agreement. He just was doing whatever he wanted. And so, when my daughter said that they tickled her like that, she wasn't saying anything that was like making me want to run to the police right away. But it made me like feel weird, but I still like questioned it. So I discussed this with one of my therapist in like a therapy session, and she said, "Well, I'm a mandated reporter, and what you're saying, you need to call DCF." And she's like, "If you don't call DCF, I'm going to, because I'm a mandated reporter." And she said, "I would recommend you call them though, because you know all the details and you could do a better job of explaining it to them." So I was like, "Sure, if I don't mind calling." And like she like basically like said that I had to. So as soon as the session was over, I called DCF because this was on a phone session. Then I called DCF. I reported it. This was in October of last year. At the time, my ex was living in New Britain. So DCF immediately like opened an investigation. They referred this to the New Britain Police Department, who have their youth bureau, and one of the detectives from there was assigned to it. And they basically said they were going to set her up for a forensic interview. They scheduled it for, it was actually take place on October 31st of 2022. And this was at the Yale Child Abuse Clinic in 1 Longworth Drive in New Haven. And so I was there with her. DCF told me, like, don't say anything to her at all prior to this. They told me if I say anything at all, I could be accused of coaching her. So I just didn't even bring it up. I literally just was like, "Oh, we're going to go to, wear your Halloween costume and whatever." So she just like went there. They said that they asked her if she knew why she was there. She said no. They said, okay, if the children, because they have this whole thing where they're not allowed to ask leading questions. And they said, well, if the children don't know why we're here, we'll take out a drawing of the body and we'll ask them to identify body parts. They asked her to identify. She identified leg, arm, and then they said, "Okay, is there anywhere on your body that no one else is allowed to touch?" And she says, "No." Since she said no, they immediately stopped the interview. They immediately closed the police investigation right then and there. She said no to is there anywhere, first of all, the way that question is so confusing. Is there anywhere on your body that no one else is allowed to touch? So in other words, is there anywhere on your body that's a private part, right?
Exactly.
And she says no, which is not true. It should be yes. And then that would have led them to go continue the questioning. So since this is this whole thing, which is like, I understand like the concept behind it, but honestly, like, the law says the police are allowed to interview children. The law says the children are allowed to sit on as a witness, and they're presumed competent. I don't think that they did justice to my daughter by closing that investigation like that. The detective said to me, oh, I'm going to close it now, and I'm not going to interview the suspect because I don't want to taint any future possible investigation if she discloses anything else. But she's like, if anything else comes up, immediately let us know, and we'll reopen it. So I was just like, okay, whatever. My lawyer said, like, just continue sending her back to dad's now every weekend. There's really nothing we can do. They labeled it as no disclosure, and then the New Britain police labeled it as unsubstantiated. But again, the word unsubstantiated makes you think, oh, these allegations are false. They're not false if the child didn't make a disclosure in the interview because she couldn't make it past the first question. That's not the same as a child saying in an interview, no, I was not abused. No, yes, I have private parts, and no one touched me there. She was never asked that. She never said that. And I have over 70 different videos of her on video acting out, describing, and doing, and these are all candid. You could all tell they're all candid. And I could give you phone records and anything else proof you want to show you that it's candid. And my daughter is saying explicitly. So then fast forward, like I said, I started sending her back to dad's because this was in November now, last year. The lawyer I had that was representing me in the custody thing, he's like, you have to send her. So I did. Nothing. She doesn't do anything like that for a while. Then on February 1st, I walk into my living room. She's on the couch. She's doing that thing again. And immediately in 2023, February 1st, 2023. And I was on the phone with somebody. I was like, as soon as I saw what she was doing, I just hung up on the person and I immediately put the camera on to start recording because you can't record and be on the phone at the same time. So I wanted to record it to have proof because my ex will say, oh no, she's lying. She's just trying to interfere with me, blah, blah, blah. And that's what he does. And so I just walk up to my daughter. I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, remember I told you Dom does all this to me all the time. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's going on to explain. He does this to me as she's like humping the toy. He does what I'm doing to the toy to me. And then I have so many more videos, right? And so like on this February 1st thing, as soon as this happened, I contacted my attorney. I said to the office, should I call the police or should I call DCF? Because again, like I wasn't sure what to do because we live in Orange and you know what I mean? So like they said, oh, well, you could call either one. It doesn't matter because they'll call each other. So I just called DCF because I wasn't like, whatever, it doesn't make a difference. And DCF then again called New Britain. New Britain assigned it to the same detective again, the same thing. They did another forensic interview on March 3rd of this year. And on that one, and again, like she kept doing this humping her stuffed animals. And I asked them, can we bring the stuffed animal in there? Because she's so young that she won't be able to like really like speak about things she can show you. And they're like, nope, no stuffed animals allowed, nothing allowed. We're super strict at Yale. So they said to me, you could tell her you're going there to tell them about what Dom does. So I told her that. She's like, oh, they'll be mad if I tell. She was like scared about it because my ex threatens her. So I said, it's okay. No one's going to get mad. I promise. It's okay. And you have to tell the truth. And it's really important. Keep you safe and all this stuff. She goes there. Walks in the room. She says to the lady, oh, do you know my brother Dom? That's the first thing they said. She said. And the lady goes, oh, tell me about him. And she's like, oh, something about what Dom does. And she goes, oh, show me. And my daughter says, well, I can't show you. I don't have my stuffed animal with me. So she says, well, just show me anyway. And then my daughter, they said, just lay down flat on the floor, flat on her stomach, and was like straddling the floor. And then they said that during the interview, she said that Dom sits on her and has her sit on him and tickles her belly while he sits on her. And in previous videos where she's literally humping her toy, I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm sitting on it like Dom sits on me. So like she used that term sitting countless times as she's acting out that behavior. And she said it in the interview. And then, so they wrote that in the chart. They didn't recommend any more unsupervised contact with the brother. and they were supposed to continue the DCF investigation, and the detective was like, well, none of that counts. Even though it's inappropriate, it's not criminal, and he could just say they're wrestling. And I'm like, literally, like, if you look at the videos alone, they're disturbing. Like, I've shown some of these to attorneys that said to me, like, you need to call the pediatrician. You need to go back to the police. You need to get a report, whatever. And so then, like, I tried to again, like, you know, make an appointment with the doctor and stuff. They told me to take her to the ER to get because she was complaining of saying this was on May 23rd of this year. I dropped her at school in Orange, and she's like, Mommy, my tummy hurts really bad, and saying her tummy hurts. And then she's like, it really hurts here. And then she grabbed her private part, and I said, you know, why does it hurt there? She's like, I don't know. So, like, I'm thinking, like, okay, maybe she has a UTI, like, maybe it's something, like, let me call the pediatrician. So I told her teacher, I said, I'm going to call the pediatrician, just keep an eye on her. And then I, like, left, and the pediatrician, I said to them, like, I've been advised to, like, show you guys these videos. DCF just basically ignored all of this stuff. Like, that detective, she said she unfortunately didn't have time to read my emails. She unfortunately didn't have time to look at all the videos. I sent them like 50, 60 videos. She said she got like 5 of them. Like, it's just so crazy how they just didn't care. And it's like, you know what? It doesn't matter how busy they are. It doesn't matter. My daughter deserves to have her case looked at. And she's innocent. And she has no voice. And I try to protect my kid.
Can I ask just a couple follow-up questions?
Yes.
When was the first forensic interview?
October 31st, 2022.
Okay. And then did they offer you at either a forensic interview for your daughter to see the doctor that was on staff there? She saw a doctor there? The
first day they asked me, and I said I opted out of it because I was like, they were making it sound like it was going to be really invasive. And so then on the second one, I did let her do it.
Okay. And did they tell you anything that they might have saw from that?
I mean, no, like they said that everything seemed like normal, but honestly, like with what they're doing, unless it's like penetration to the point where it's like leaving scars and things like that, what do you expect to see? The kid is 16 and she's 3. So it's like if she's being molested and making sexual contact and whatever, and it's not like like rape, that's like brutal, you're not going to see any evidence. And so, you know, honestly, like I was sexually abused as a child from the ages of 4 to 9. It was investigated by the Connecticut State Police. The abuse happened in 3 different towns: New Haven, West Haven, and Bethany. Connecticut State Police investigated it when I was 14 years old and took my statement. He had no evidence, no DNA, nothing, no forensic interview. A police took my statement. And you know what? He ended up pleading guilty in 2009. I know exactly how this process works. I know the forensic interviews are what you guys do, not just your department, but it looks like the whole state's doing this. And I was told by the court in New Britain when I spoke to the state's attorney's office that yes, police are allowed to interview children. Yes, they can do it with the parent and attorney present if there's an attorney. Yes, the children can sit as witnesses. Though they said the reason they started doing this forensic interviews is because they were losing, the state of Connecticut prosecutors were losing the sexual assault cases in court because the defense attorneys would say, well, the police asked the leading questions. They asked leading questions and get the statement tossed or get the interview tossed. Well, that doesn't mean that you can't still pursue it to trial and you have that child as a witness. And it doesn't matter. You could still get the evidence overruled by a judge and get in. So it's like they're just like, nope, it's okay. And then now they're trying now they took my daughter away from me. And if you read the court orders, it's all saying, the judge is saying the allegations of sexual abuse are false. We can't figure out why the mother is saying these sexual abuse things. The mother's not allowed to see the child anymore. She can't see her unless the father says, which now he's not letting me see her at all. And like, he took her out of the therapist she was in, put her in a new therapist. He won't even tell me the therapist's name. And she told me, oh, daddy said this therapist is just for me and daddy, and you're not allowed to know, and I'll be in trouble if I tell you. That she said that he's hit her. The only access I have to her is FaceTime calls. During these calls, she'll take her Barbie and put it in her mouth and start moving it up and down in a sexual manner. And when I ask her what she's doing, she says, oh, I like to lick it and things like that. I record all these stuff. I screen record it. I record all the audios. And he says, oh, go ahead and record what you want. No, it's not admissible in court. It doesn't faze me. Oh, I'll just object and get it kicked out and you won't ever get to do anything. Go ahead, call the cops. Then she starts saying things like, she's hitting her dolls in the videos. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm just hitting them because they won't go to sleep. And she previously said to me that he's hit her when she wouldn't go to sleep, her father. But like the sexual abuse stuff was all saying the brother was doing it. And now she's 4, the brother's 17. And like I'll regularly, like I'll sometimes call her and she's like, oh, I'm laying in bed and Dominic's laying in bed with me. And she's like, oh, he's watching me tonight and no one else is here because daddy's not here and Mima's not here and he's watching me by himself tonight. And I can't even do anything. So it's like she's literally like, and like she's so brainwashed now, psychologically abusing her, where he's saying to her on the phone, like, oh, you're not allowed to ever go to your house again. You can't talk to mommy. Mommy's sick. Mommy's brain is messed up. And like, it's just all these terrible things. Like I try to explain it to Officer Fernandez and he's like, oh, well, well, this, that, like, it's like, I feel like he's not understanding it. And it's like, I just feel like it's really hard. Child abuse, like if I can send you guys like what the federal government and state government defines as abuse, everything I just said fits that description perfectly. And all the stuff he's doing, I have everything evidence. And it's like, I feel like nobody wants to investigate this. Nobody cares. Nobody's looking. My daughter is being literally held hostage and she has no access to me, to her sister, Juliana, who's 9 years old. And I have sole custody of her. And so you're going to tell me I'm fit enough for sole custody of my 9-year-old for her whole life, but I'm not fit to have...
So how come is the court, are you working with an attorney to help with that situation? Like,
no, I can't get an attorney. I can't get an attorney in this entire state to take my case because they said that because this judge put in orders saying that I'm lying about the sexual abuse and this judge won't let me file anything. Last time we went to court was June. Since then, I filed so many things, tried to get emergency court orders. I went there yesterday. I filed a motion for emergency thing. She made it so any motion I file, I need to get permission first to file it. And then she denies my request for permission.
Permission from who?
From the judge.
Oh my.
And like she only did this for me, not for him. And all because she said I lied because of the sexual abuse. She didn't watch any of the videos. She did not look at any evidence, nothing. And like the pediatrician told me to take her to the hospital. Then she said, oh, I took her to the hospital. She says, I took her to forensic interviews. I didn't schedule these forensic interviews. DCF did that. She used it against me that my daughter did forensic interviews. She used it against me that I took her to the doctor. I followed my doctor's orders. I followed the lawyer's orders. I followed all the professionals' instructions by the T, to the T. And she put a big order saying that makes me unfit because she said I took my daughter to invasive physical examinations. Invasive. It's not invasive. She's saying that because they did a DNA kit that day that I told you on May 23rd, May 23rd when I dropped her off after I called the pediatrician. Yeah, so then I called the pediatrician and I was like, should I bring her in to check for a UTI? And I said, I have all these videos. I was recommended to have you guys look at them. And they said, well, for the videos, we would need you to have someone else here so they can sit with her while we do that with you in the room without her looking. We could do that another time. She's like, for today, let me talk to the doctor and call you back. They called me back. They're like, the nurse said to me, well, I talked to the doctor. We strongly recommend you bring her to the ER. They're like, if you take her to us, we can just do a urine, but the ER can also do like a swab. And because they asked me, they're like, well, she's saying it hurts. And they're like, when was the last time she was at dad's? And I said, I picked her up Sunday, which was her birthday, May 21st. And this was Tuesday, May 23rd. So they said, well, usually it's like 48 hours or whatever for a girl who didn't start getting her period yet. And so they're like, it's maybe past the window, but there still could be a slight chance of some DNA. And they're like, you could bring her here, but we won't be able to swab her. So we recommend take her to the ER as soon as you can. And I'm like, I had class that night, supposed to be in Hartford. I'm so busy. I'm like, now I have to go to the emergency room. That's going to take all day. So I didn't want to do that. But the doctor was like strongly encouraging me to do it. So I'm thinking as a mother, okay, you know what? I'm going to put my kids first. I'm going to drop everything, pick her up from school, and take her to the ER. I asked them, I said, okay.
I would have done the same thing.
Exactly, right? And then I took her to Griffin. Yeah. They said I said, is Griffin okay? Because I wasn't a big fan of Yale after all this stuff. And they said, yeah, that's fine. I go to Griffin with her. Griffin took it seriously. I showed them, even when we were there, she tells me in the car, in the parking lot when we parked, Daddy said I'm not allowed to tell you anything or I'm going to be in trouble. And Dominic, she said, like, he did it again. She said it was behind the gray couch in the living room. And like, I recorded all this when I was talking to her. Then I showed it to the doctor, the recording. I showed him I had all these other videos. They were extremely concerned. They said they were going to do it, but they said because they didn't have the stuff there for children, they said I should have not came there in the first place because they're only for adults. So they said you have to go to either Yale Children's Hospital or Hartford Children's Hospital. And my class was supposed to be in Hartford. I really didn't want to miss it. So I said, let me just go to Hartford because then I could maybe go after to the class, just take her with me. And he said, okay. The doctor from Griffin called the doctor from Connecticut Children's Hospital in Hartford. They said, this doctor is waiting for you. They're receiving you. They said we could do a transport with an ambulance. And I'm like, well, I have my car. What do I do? And they consulted. And all the medical people at Griffin said they believed it was the right thing to do in her best interest would be for me to just drive her to the hospital. And so I said, okay, I'm going to drive her to the hospital. They wrote that on the discharge, bring her to Hartford right away. I went there. They talked to the PA. We went in the room and the PA, she told me I have to step outside so she could privately speak to my daughter. And she says to her, when she told me after, she said that my daughter says to her, she asked her, do you know if you have private parts? And my daughter says, Dominic's the one who did it to me. And mommy said, no one's going to be mad at me if I tell you about it. And so it's like, as soon as she asked her if she has private parts, she just says, Dominic's the one who does it to me. And so it's like, she already like knew exactly what they're asking her. And like, I'm telling her, like, it's okay to say, like, nobody's going to be upset, because she's getting like threatened that she can't say anything. And that's when she said to me too that day, Daddy hit me because I wouldn't go to bed and hit me on my back and all this stuff. And so it's like, I told him, like, I don't believe in like hitting my children. Like, and he's like, well, I'll hit my kids if I want and stuff like that. It's just like, I can't do anything if I'm not there. So we were at the hospital until 3:00 in the morning that night. They did the like rape kit, which when you say rape kit, people think it sounds so bad, but it was literally like they took a little Q-tip and it was like they didn't even do anything invasive for her. They did a urine. They said she did not have a UTI. And they did the collection kit. After that, they told us that they were making a report to DCF, the hospital was, and they said that they were going to have her get referred to go to the Suspected Child Abuse Network scan clinic that they have at Hartford. Yeah. And then they said they were going to have a New Britain detective would have to come there to collect the kit from the hospital. So we had to wait so long for them to come. And like I said, I'm literally like there all night with my daughter till 3 a.m. Then I had to drive back home. And then after that, it was like, that was May 23rd. The next day was May 24th. And then I tried to go to court on the 25th. I tried asking for a continuance because I was supposed to get like a new lawyer that was supposed to take my case. And then she told me before I even signed a retainer that she wasn't going to be able to take my case. And it was like 5 days before this hearing. So then I tried to like get a continuance to get time to get another lawyer, and the judge denied it. She's like, everyone's coming on the 25th. All pending motions are being heard. So I consulted with so many lawyers. They're like, just go on the 25th, say that you want a GAL, say that you're asking for more time, you want your file from the other lawyer, and you need to get a continuance. I tried doing that. She's like, nope, we're making a final decision today about who Angelina's going to live with permanently. I'm like, are you serious? Like, this was like a 2:00 hearing. This wasn't a trial or anything. And like, she wouldn't even swear me in. She said, we're only going to listen to my ex. I'm not going to be allowed to show any evidence. I'm not going to be allowed to be sworn in or testify or anything. I'm telling you, it was so corrupt. He also talks about openly how he and people that he's related to that are affiliated with organized crime, he says he pays people off and brags about it and tells me I'll never be able to do anything. He just tries to gaslight everybody and manipulate, and it's just really sickening. Like, I tell people this, people don't believe me. 90% of people do not believe what I'm saying. And so honestly, like, if you see the videos, they're speaking for yourself. Even the 2 that I sent to Officer Fernandez alone, not to mention the 60 other ones after that. And what was I going to say? Like, just the whole thing with, you know, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, that's okay. That's a lot of information, and I appreciate you, you know, going down the timeline with. It's a very unique situation for you, and I empathize with you big time. I'm just trying to. I want to help you, but I'm trying to figure out how can I do that, because this sounds like it all occurred in New Britain. So I don't know where I can go from here. Other than reaching out to New Britain and seeing, you know, how they made out with their investigation or what's going on. But I mean, it sounds like this ball is in their court, and nothing occurred in Orange with Dom. It's Dominic, correct?
Yeah, but like, she was living in Orange this whole time. She was residing here in Orange that whole entire time. And then like that day on the 25th, the judge says to me, like, because she let me ask him some questions, and I said, are you aware that like that, you know, there was a new investigation that just now is starting about this sexual abuse thing? And he says on the record in court, no, but it doesn't surprise me. What's this, the 3rd time or the 4th time you're making false allegations about my son? And I said, excuse me, like, I don't appreciate you like accusing our daughter of lying, because like, I'm just sharing what she's saying. And the judge goes, excuse me, answer his question. Is this the 3rd time you made false reports or the 4th time you made false reports? And like, she's like saying I'm making false reports. She never saw a single video. She never saw a single piece of evidence. And the only thing that I'm saying with New Britain is they completely only had it rely on the forensic. And so she labeled the second forensic as no disclosure, even though she said he sits on her and has her sit on him. She labeled the first one as no disclosure because my daughter didn't answer any questions. So it's like, both of those are no disclosure. Then after that, my daughter made additional disclosures. I met with New Britain PD, the detective, the sergeant, and the person from the Rape Crisis Center was with me. I was there for an hour. They said that our whole interaction in that meeting was recorded. And during it, I told them she made additional disclosures. And she mentioned a specific day of Saturday when she said that day, it was in March, that she said the father left her alone with the son while he went to work. And they said that like they were going to like investigate. They were going to do a 3rd forensic. They said they were going to have her do a 3rd forensic in Klingberg, and that they were going to have her be able to make an exception and bring her stuffed animal with her. And that was scheduled for the end of March. Then they called me like a couple days before saying that they had a meeting with DCF and the people, and they all decided that they're not going to do a 3rd forensic and that it's better to just not do it because they're trying to say, oh, it's too hard for a kid to do forensics. With my daughter, the first one didn't even count. And so it's like she never even got to have a chance to speak and be heard. And like she's supposed to have that 3rd forensic. New disclosures came up. She continued to make disclosures. And then in May, like I said, she disclosed again. The hospital called DCF. DCF didn't even take in the report from the hospital. DCF ignored it.
And DCF did not take that report from the hospital?
Nope, they didn't. And then after that, I was calling. Then after that, 2 days later, they took my daughter away, said I lied about the sexual abuse, and ordered that she would go. They said to me in court on May 25th, where's your daughter? I said, she's at school. They said to the father, you're going to go to the school right now. You're going to go pick her up. You're going to take these orders with you, and anyone gives you a hard time, and you're leave right now. Then she tells me he's going to have sole custody. You're only supervised visitation only when he says, if he says. You're not allowed to take your daughter to any emergency room or police department without asking the father first and showing them the order when you get there. All this stuff. It's crazy, right? If you actually read the transcripts, read everything. I got the audio of the hearing, all the stuff, and then see what she wrote. she just put in all these lies. And like, then she says it was a temporary order on May 25th. She goes, it'll be temporary for 1 week, then we'll come back. Then she made the order be for 3 weeks. And then 5 days later, without us coming back to court, she wrote a 10-page written formal legal opinion where she said all the orders were now going to be final, and that mom is not going to have any access with the child unless the father says, and has to be supervised by somebody designated by the father. So I get no schedule with my daughter at all. I get no set schedule. I haven't seen her now in 8 weeks. In August, I saw her 6 hours total. Once at the Orange Carnival for 3 hours. The second time was sitting at the church in Orange for 3 hours on the 27th and on the 3rd. In July, I saw her one time for 3 hours. In June, I saw her 1 day and a half. And then that's it.
How long is this order going to be in place for?
Oh, the judge said we went back on June 15th. She had the detective from New Britain. She subpoenaed on her own the DCF worker that was part of the investigation, and she subpoenaed the detective from New Britain. And she didn't let me cross-examine them or anything. The detective said on the stand that she never met my daughter. She says, I never even met her or spoke to her once. And she's saying she thoroughly investigated it. They said all these things, right? And I tried to clear it on the day of the 15th. The judge says to me, I'm not changing any of the orders. I made my final orders. I'm not changing them. But the thing that she did that really messed me up is like she put in an order on the 31st saying the mother is required to file a request for leave for any motions or pleadings and in the case. So it's like the law says request for leave is for a modification. If you're filing an emergency order, they can't say that you need permission to file the emergency order. But according to what she did, so then I tried to go to like Milford Court, which is the proper court for me in Orange. I tried to go there and file a TRO. I filed 2 restraining orders in June. They both were granted by Milford, but then the judge forced Milford to vacate them and transfer them to New Haven, and then she dismissed them both with no hearings. Then I tried going to New Britain Court. They did the same thing. Tried going to Waterbury Court. The same thing. I've been trying to get justice for all this time. This judge is blocking me. She has so many lawsuits in federal court against her. She's got complaints. She's got a history of doing this where she's taking kids and giving it to the abuser. If you're alleging sexual abuse, she's saying, oh, you lied to interfere with the father. Now that you get no custody. But she made it so I have no rights. I have no way to modify it at all. And it's like really scary. So we have a court case now. I filed a petition to terminate his parental rights because now he's psychologically abusing her. He's isolating her. He's doing everything that is so abusive. And she's also being exposed now with the sexual abuse stuff. She's showing continued signs of being sexually abused on these FaceTimes with what she's doing, licking things, all these things she's saying. It's very obvious. And he is just like trying to just say, oh no, you're lying. And now he won't let me see her at all. He went from let me see her once a month for 2 hours to not at all. And now he literally won't let me see her. And I tried filing a thing in the court yesterday, request for leave for an emergency ex parte, saying I haven't seen my daughter in 8 weeks and he's all this stuff. She's being psychologically abused, all this stuff. He's secretly putting her in therapists and won't let me tell who they are, all these things. The judge writes, your request for leave is denied. Allegations are identical to prior allegations. First of all, they're not identical. I could show you all the prior ones. Nothing's identical. Everything is based on the date that I'm writing it, and she won't even let me have a motion filed, let alone a hearing, let alone any justice. So now I'm trying to
wait the petition for a new judge.
I've tried that. I filed move her to recuse herself in June. She refuses. Not only does she refuse, she's forcing any other judge. She made it so no judge can hear anything. Only she can, and we're going to have a hearing on the recusal. And then she says nothing can be scheduled in this case until the recusal gets done. But then they were supposed to have the recusal hearing. They said, oh, we're only giving you 1 hour. And I asked for like accommodations because I have ADHD. I said I want to be able to have more than an hour so I could even look. Like we've been on the phone for 33 minutes. Imagine if I said all this in court and then I didn't even have a chance to show witnesses, to show evidence, nothing. And then they're like, nope, you get 1 hour or nothing. Not only does that violate my constitutional rights, but it's like purposefully like, and then they say, oh, you didn't show your thing. But if you have a lawyer, they'll say, oh, you can have a full day. You can have a trial that goes on for a month. No problem. Have as much time as you want. But if you're not, then they're like, nope, because they're not making any money off you. And it's just like, it's really sad because obviously, like, there's a lot of problems with the family court system, and there's not a lot of oversight. But like the fact that they're willing to go this far to try to cover up the abuse is really sad for my daughter, because like she's going to end up having problems psychologically, and she already is. And it's not right. She deserves to be safe. She deserves to have an investigation. That's a real investigation. And I was told that any police can investigate felony charges. She lived in Orange as an Orange of a primary residency during this entire time of this happening. And now she's with him. And so it's like, she deserves to at least have this looked at. And like I said, I gave New Britain all the stuff. They said they didn't have time to look at it, and they just didn't care. They said, oh, nothing in the forensic. We're not looking further. And so it's like,
can I have the information so I can do a little more, just kind of more research on it? Who's the detective in New Britain?
Her name was Detective Lisa Steves.
Lisa Steves?
Steves, Steeves. And her sergeant was Sergeant Jared Barcelau, Barselau. And there's a lieutenant, which was his boss, Lieutenant John Prisavage, Prisavage. And so like there was like maybe 4 different case numbers. One from October, one from February. Another one was for March after we had that meeting in person. And then the 4th one was this one after the hospital. And all 4 of them were closed.
Okay. And do you have a DCF caseworker?
Not at the moment. Right now, they're supposed to have DCF contacting us soon, because I filed this termination thing and it got moved to juvenile court, and they said like DCF is required to now like do an investigation, but I haven't heard from them yet.
Okay. And then lastly, do you have somebody from like a rape crisis as like a contact? Do you have one?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. Did you work with a rape crisis center?
Yeah, and I talked to the lady Cindy from there then, and like she came with me to the police station and stuff like that. But then like she called
Cindy Dugan?
Yeah, and she called me on the day that to tell me, oh, by the way, they're not doing the 3rd forensic. And I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, she's like, well, they're having a meeting. I was like, well, can I be part of this meeting? I was like, she's like, I don't know, we got to call them. I was like, I'll literally go there if I have to. I don't mind driving there. Like, and she's like, oh, I don't know. Then she's like, I'll call you back. Then I get a call 5 minutes later from the Sergeant Barcelau saying to me, oh, don't go there. We don't want you to get in trouble or anything. They're just not gonna do the meeting, and it's okay. We're still gonna do our investigation though. And then They didn't do any investigation. They said they asked Matt, and he showed them a screenshot of a picture of a camera, and they put in the thing that the timestamp didn't even match. And then he showed them a GPS saying he was at the grocery store, and that somehow showed that she wasn't abused. Like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, and I have so much stuff I could send you. You know what I mean? But if you want to see if you could like get those records of those investigations, because they even said like, oh, they can't release it to me because of the whatever, like it involves children and yeah. But I mean, if you wanted to like contact them and reference those ones to get information to start and then get back to me, and then I would really like to like share all this stuff with you guys, because I'm planning to also contact the FBI, like, and go there, like, because I don't want my daughter to be in the situation, and it's not fair to what's happening to her.
I would like to help you. I don't want to make any promises to you, okay?
Okay.
I want to tell you that. I want to help you. I empathize with you big time. And I really want to see what happened here, but I don't want to step on anybody's toes either. If they're going to take this investigation, this is where the crime supposedly happened, was in New Britain, so this would be New Britain's investigation. But I will certainly, make some phone calls and see, what I can do and try to help you, but I can't make any promises.
Yeah, and like, because like, isn't it true that if it's a felony, it doesn't have to be only in where it happened? Isn't that only when it's a misdemeanor? That's what Wallingford told me on a different day.
Yes and no. In a situation like this, the crime occurred in New Britain, they have started an investigation on it already, and they've closed it. So no, I wouldn't investigate a crime that happened out of this town. But let me just see what DCF is saying, and let me just talk to Cindy and go from there.
And
like
can
I
you?
said, I can't make any promises.
Okay, can you ask Fernandez to give you those videos that I sent him, the two, so you can like at least look at those?
Will.
Okay.
I will. Yeah.
Okay.
And I understand the position that you're in as a parent. I totally get it, and you want quick answers, but this may take a little time. I am off for the next 3 days, though. So if you could just be a little patient and just give me a little time with reaching out to some people.
Okay.
Okay. But I appreciate you calling and sharing all that with me. I know that you're going through a tough time, but in the meantime, I would say that your best bet would be trying to secure somebody, an attorney, or trying to work that way with the courts for the meantime.
Okay. I know, I'm trying. Trust me, I've been going to consultations and paying for these consultations, and then lawyers are saying, "Oh, I'll refer you to this one," and then it's like an endless cycle. So, and I'm in law school, and now I am. As of now, I am. I've been trying to find an attorney since May, and so it's a lot. It's stressful, and plus these attorneys aren't cheap either.
No, not at all. I understand. Okay, let me see what I can do. And is there anybody that, Rape Crisis has so many contacts. Was there nobody that they could recommend to you to reach out to for court stuff?
I mean, I'm not sure. Like, do you have, like, a number you could refer me with, like, to anyone from there to call? Or you guys usually, like...
From Rape Crisis?
Yeah, or, like, any of those programs?
We usually just give out their 24-hour hotline number and do it that way. So I don't know if you want to try calling them over there, but we use Milford Rape Crisis. I don't know. That's who you would use in this area. So their phone number, do you want it?
I just Googled it. If it's the one in Milford, I could just try to give them a call because, it's been a couple months since I've reached out.
West River Street?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try to call them now. And then if you could just, whenever you get a chance, just follow up with me, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.